Welcome to Unleashed at Work and Home, the show dedicated to helping veterinarians, vet techs, dog trainers, shelter and rescue workers, pet sitters, and all the other animal-crazy pet professionals manage their stress and find more joy. I'm your host, Colleen Pilar. I bring you interviews with amazing people just like you who have dedicated their careers to improving the lives of animals and people. And I also share proven tips and strategies that you can try out in your own life. I'm thrilled you're here with us today. Make sure you hit the subscribe button on your favorite app so that you won't miss a single episode. This show is brought to you by the Unleashed Resilience membership. If you like the ideas shared in this episode, then you're invited to continue the conversation with other lifelong learners in the membership area, which you can find out more about at ColleenPilar.com. As part of the Unleashed Resilience community, you'll get access to monthly learning labs, a catalog of previous classes, plus monthly interactive group discussions. We're a friendly, supportive group with an exclusive, private Facebook group and forum. It's the perfect place for you to come and learn cool stuff, feel good, and take action to create the life you love. Come join us. Have you ever shared good news with someone and then had them completely suck the joy right out of you? What's up with that? Well, in a recent coaching conversation, one of my clients and I had a long discussion about it. For the purposes of our conversation here, I'll call her Amanda. So Amanda is a dog trainer, and she has been working for years doing private lessons and building her business. And now she is ready to open her own training facility. She's very excited about it, and she's done all the research and found the location, and finally she signed the contract. On the day she signed the contract, she called her best friend. She was just giddy with excitement. She was like, I did it. I signed the contract. I have the place. It's mine. And her friend was in sort of a busy moment. Her friend was busy preparing dinner and supervising her kids, and she said, that's awesome, Amanda. And then the next words out of her mouth were, hey, Jacob, stop daydreaming. Get back to that math homework. Well, Amanda and her friend had a conversation for a while longer. They talked for about 10 minutes, but it never really caught fire because her friend wasn't fully engaged with her. So when she was done talking to her friend and not feeling quite as excited as she had been before, Amanda called her mom. Amanda's mom is super proud of the work she's doing. And she's really very supportive overall of Amanda's goals. But her mother is also a worrier. So when Amanda was talking to her, her mother started in with some of the worries. She was like, that's great, but I'm wondering, will the overhead be too much for you to manage? Or you're so busy already. Gosh, I wonder if I'm ever going to see you now that you have a facility. And do you think it's going to be hard to fill group classes? I mean, after all, you've never offered them, so no one knows that you're going to be having them. So it might be really hard to get clients at first. Well, Amanda was just feeling bereft. She had this exciting news, and she had called her friend and she had called her mother. And each case, she wound up feeling sort of dejected and a little bit isolated. And she wondered, what happened there? Why couldn't they be happy for her? Why couldn't they celebrate her news with her? So I shared with Amanda a framework that I find very helpful. It's most often called active constructive responding, but it's actually a 4-quadrant framework. So, so there are active and passive and constructive and destructive. So Amanda's friend was passively constructive. She said, oh, that's nice. She was happy for her and proud of her, but she didn't do enough to lead the conversation forward. She didn't do enough to really engage on a level that helped Amanda see how amazing this moment was and to really feel the emotions that she had connected with it. Amanda's mother, who loves her dearly and did not want to be harmful in any way, was. Amanda's mother was actively destructive. She allowed her fears to come out in the questions that she asked. And that happens a lot with people who care about you and who want what's best for you, but are wired to notice the downsides. And so they ask questions and they bring up the downsides and point out the drawbacks and basically leave you feeling like, oh, why do I even tell you anything good? Now, Amanda did not experience this other quadrant, which is passively destructive. And that's the person who just sort of turns the conversation in a different direction. So if Amanda had called someone and said, I'm so excited, I just signed this contract for my new training facility. And the person said, oh, I remember when I signed the contract for mine. It was really thrilling. It's so cool to have your own facility. In which case that person would kind of take the focus off of Amanda and put it on herself. So that would be passively destructive. The quadrant that we would all like to live in is up here, the active constructive. And by being actively constructive, you ask questions that help the person who's sharing their good news with you to really feel it. So curious, engaged questions that help the listen. I'm sorry, let me say that again. Curious, engaged questions that help the person who's sharing their good news with you feel it more deeply and to think about it more deeply. So just asking fact-based questions isn't going to really help. So where is the facility and how big is the facility and things like that? That isn't going to expand on Amanda's joy. In the same way, a question like, well, which piece are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to most? What are some of the things that having this space will allow you to do that you haven't been able to do by doing just private lessons? What kinds of things have you learned in these last several years of working that are really paying off for you right now in this moment? Those kinds of questions, the engaged and curious and wow, look at you, I'm so proud of you, Amanda, what comes next questions. Those kind are the kind that fall in the active, constructive quadrant. And those are the kind that leave people feeling heard and cared for, supported. So Amanda had been feeling kind of isolated, quite frankly. She had felt that her good news wasn't being celebrated, and that made her feel very, very sad. So when we talked through the framework, she was able to see that even with the best of intentions, her friend and her mother had not come through for her in a way that was very helpful. So for us, what does that mean? Well, it's a really powerful thing for us to be thinking about because we have probably all at times done each of these quadrants. We certainly have. Everyone does them sooner or later. But being conscious of this, particularly with the people that you really care about having good connection with, be careful not to just hijack a conversation and send it in another direction or turn it into something about you or just be sort of passively, well, that's nice, and just let it lie there and rely on the person who was sharing their good news to keep filling in details. The more we're sort of, well, good. Well, how nice. That's interesting. That doesn't really help anyone. So being very conscious of how we respond, and particularly down here, those of us who worry, and we all worry, we are all wired for negativity. It can be very easy to see potential drawbacks and to feel that it is our job as someone who cares about the other person to bring them up and see if there's anything that this person needs to be thinking about. And there is a time and a place for that. But it's not in the moment of celebration. It's not when the person calls you so excited about their big news for you to start doing little pinpricks into their joy. So being conscious of these pieces and really paying attention to them can be very, very helpful. So this week, pay attention to how you respond when people share news with you, any kind of news, big or small, and ask yourself, where in the quadrants did you fall? And if you'd like to improve, pay particular attention to the skill of asking good questions, Questions that allow the person who's sharing their news with you to explore more deeply how they feel about it and what it means to them. So I look forward to hearing from you how you are using this skill and how you are noticing the people in your life, what quadrants they fall into. Because lots of us have people that we care about very, very deeply who do not show up in the active, constructive, responding quadrant. And knowing that will give you the skills that you need to be able to set conversations up so that you don't feel dejected and isolated the way Amanda did. Thanks for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode and are interested in discovering ways that you can manage your stress, find more joy, and create the life you love, then be sure to check out Unleashed Resilience. We'd love to have you join us. Visit ColleenPilar.com to learn more. That's it for this episode, though. Thanks for listening to Unleashed at Work and Home.